Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. Thank you all for coming out. We're just really excited to be back live in person doing these Rilke celebration events. We had a terrific Q&A last night. I'm glad to see even more of you here today. So thank you all for coming out. I'm Corey Marks, by the way. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Director of Creative Writing in the Department of English. I also teach poetry. I also serve with Jean Debrow as one of the judges for the UNT Rilke Prize. And it's that prize that we're here to celebrate tonight. Especially, we're here to celebrate Valzhyna Mort, our 11th winner of the award. And if you don't know about the UNT Rilke Prize, it's an award that recognizes a book demonstrating exceptional artistry and vision. And it's named after the great German poet Rilke. And it comes with a great $10,000 check, which is one of those moments in a life of poetry where you think, hey, okay, maybe it's paying off a little bit. Every so often, it pays off a little bit, right? So, and that money, I always want to point out, is generously supported by the Department of English and by our college class. So thank you to the Department of English and class. Again, this year we had a really remarkable pool of applications that came in, a number of terrific books. And there were so many books that struck our attention, Jean's and my attention, as we were reading through. But really, once we hit Valzhyna's book, we were sold on it. We knew that it was the book that we had to choose. And so we're here to celebrate music for the dead and resurrected. And look, there are huge copies of it floating here. But there are also copies out there that you can buy. And if you haven't purchased a copy yet, absolutely, you need to get a copy of the book and have it signed tonight by the author. So, but the most important thing before we bring Valzhyna up is that we need a proper introduction. So I'm going to ask James Davis, who is one of our PhD poetry students in the department, a terrific poet, someone who's taking a break from studying for his PhD exams, to come and talk to us a little bit about Valzhyna Mort. So here's James Davis.
Thank you, Corey. Good evening. I have been given the rare honor and pleasure of introducing Valzhyna Mort, whose third collection, Music for the Dead and Resurrected, won the 2022 UNT Rilke Prize. Resurrection is a deeply Christian word. Its roots in the Catholic Church reach down to at least the 11th century, but its connotations extend beyond Christ. It may describe the saved at the arrival of the end times, or the reanimated flesh of Frankenstein's monster. A resurrectionist is a euphemism for grave robber. It's these exhuming, apocalyptic resonances that give Mort's music its spooky, irresistible groove. Here, history comes to an end, says the opening poem to Antigone, a dispatch. Like a movie with rolling credits of headstones, with nameless credits of mass graves. Confronted with these graves, the poem speaker is a resurrectionist with a bright shovel of a face. This collection encounters death on a massive historic scale, the Holocaust, Chernobyl, and the various state-sanctioned killings that shape our daily lives. Yet the poetry manages to make such atrocities feel acutely, disquietingly personal. When the poem Bus Stops, Ars Poetica, describes streets introducing themselves with the names of national murderers, I feel an instant, sobering identification. Death is never as far from the surface as our official histories and monuments pretend. Mort's ear is sharp to the subtle ways a motherland rattles its bone keys, a haunting yet playful refrain in the poem titled An Attempt at Genealogy. This attempt reminds me of the term etude, a short but challenging piece of music with a pedagogical purpose. This collection's etudes teach us how to hear their music through subtly repeated themes, images, and refrains. More importantly, they teach us how to think, such that our minds trouble ossified divisions between past and present, individual and group, living and dead. Wherever I land, I upset The balance of borders, declares the book's finale, music for girl's voice in Bison. I arrive and, at once, borders spill. This is poetry that upsets, that uns things. Forests of the dead are unburied. God is undear. Your name is changed for a Russian name in an act of unbaptism. We often go to poetry for solace and affirmation, not to be upset or und. Yet this collection's undoings feel strangely affirmative. I'm reminded that refrain, a crucial lyric device in these poems, has two nearly opposite meanings, to stop and to repeat. The latter meaning shares a root with refract. A good refrain unbraids language like a prism unbraids light, arraying its constituent colors to the viewer in a stunning, radiant display. Music for the dead and resurrected does the same with language. It radiates in every sense of the word. Valzhyna Mort is a highly decorated poet and translator, originally from Minsk, Belarus. Her work has received support from the American Academy in Rome, the Guggenheim Foundation, the Lenan Foundation, and the Amy Clampett Foundation. The Rilke Prize is only the latest in her list of honors, including Poetry Magazine's Bess Hoken Prize, Prairie Schooner's Glenna Lushi Award, and the Gulf Coast and NEA Prizes in translation. She teaches poetry at Cornell University. We are an incredibly fortunate audience tonight. Please join me in welcoming Valzhyna Mort.
Good evening. I had 2 beautiful days in Denton, Texas at UNT. Thank you so much to the faculty and the students with whom I got to share really beautiful meals and conversations. I speak from the bottom of my heart, sincerely. I really felt the generosity and, the communion in poetry and in literature. Thank you so much. And thank you, James, for this gorgeous introduction. Give James a PhD. I'm going to start with a poem called To Antigone, a Dispatch. This poem invites you to a place called Kuropathy. It's a forest on the outskirts of Minsk, a site of mass executions that took place in the 30s at the height of Stalin's purges. This site remains a place of great contention between our pro-Stalinist government and people who would like to mourn the dead properly. Antigone, dead siblings are set. As for the living, pick me for a sister. I, too, love a proper funeral. Drag-digging sisters pop up, burial. Landlady, I make the rounds of graves, keeping up my family's top-notch properties. On a torture instrument called an accordion, I stretch my fingers into the finger bones of a witch. My guts have been emptied like bellows for the best sound. Once we settle your brother, I'll show you forests of the unburied dead. We'll clean the way only 2 sisters can clean a house. No bones scattered like dirty socks, no ashes at the bottom of bone china. Why bicker with husbands about dishes when we've got mountains of skulls to shine? Labor and retribution will share, not girly secrets. Brought up by dolls and monuments, I have the bearing of a horse and a bitch. I'm cement in tears. You can spot my graves from afar, marble like newborn skin. Here, history comes to an end, like a movie with rolling credits of headstones, with uncredited rolls of mass graves. Every ditch, every hill is suspect. Pick me for a sister, Antigone, in this suspicious land, I have a bright shovel of a face. I'll continue with a shortened version of a long poem that used to be called an attempt at genealogy, but now it's called Genealogical Etudes. Thank you so much, James, for that. This poem is a letter addressed to lost letters, and the lost letters are the letters of my grandmother's brother, Václav. I always feel like I have to say that because he's often confused for Václav Havel, whose letters are famous. But my grandmother's brother is not famous, and I worry that I might be the only person who thinks about him regularly. He was disconnected from his family during the war as a young boy, and then he was lost to the machine of history. And I wrote this poem when I found out that throughout the war, Václav wrote letters to my grandmother, to his favorite sister, and she lost them. And I thought that those letters might have been my only connection to a family that is all loss and silence and absence, which is also very much Belarusian history, which is why the refrain here is, where am I from? Where am I from? In black basilicas, dragged incessantly down a cross, is a man who here resembles a dress snatched from a hanger. There, thick clouds of muscles, an overcast body, embodied weather of one hardly known country. A country where I'm from? Yes, a man resembles a dress snatched from a hanger. Inside black alphabet, dragged incessantly down each letter, is a man. To a telephone in a long hallway, as if to a well for water. Well, where am I from? Neither mamas nor papas. My round face takes after a rotary phone. A rotary phone is my gene pool. My body rings as it runs to put my head on the strong shoulder of the receiver. Blood is talking. Blood's connection is weak. Inside the receiver, I hear crackling as if fire is calling. Who is this? It's me, fire receiver. But where am I from? So much time spent at the kitchen table, trying to decide where to put commas in sentences about made-up lives. Yet no one bothered to tell us that words, once uttered, crowd in the brain as in a hospital lobby. You've made a mistake, you'd say mysteriously, pointing at lines written by a child. Think of another word with the same root. As if words can have roots. As if words didn't come from darkness. Get in the bag words, as if our human roots were already known to us. Here's grammar, here's orthography, here's physics, chemistry, geography with its atlas. Now, where are Václav's letters, 1946? What to do about the etymology of us, our etymology? 1946 crowds my hospital lobby. The face of a rotary phone, the face of a clock, the face of a radio on the wall, these are my round-faced progenitors. But Václav's face, where? In a village known for a large puddle, where all children fall between the two categories of those who hurt living things and those who hurt non-living things. In a village known for being unknown, a graveyard around an old church, the frightening alphabet around the village, an alphabet on gravestones, marble letters under the moth-eaten snow. Under the moth-eaten snow, my motherland has good bones. My motherland rattles its bone keys. A bone is a key to my motherland. Under the moth-eaten snow, my motherland has good bones. In my motherland, people kneel before wells. In my motherland, people pray to the crosses of flying birds. A bone is a key to my people. Among my people, only the dead have human faces. Still, where am I from? On the borderlands of my motherland, wet laundry claps in the wind like gunfire. Have you heard about my motherland? My motherland is a raw yolk inside a Fabergé egg. This yolk is what gives gold its color. This face is a fire receiver. This face is an inner organ. A bone is a key to my people. Where am I from? Put your bones into braids of graves, woods. Put your bones into braids of graves, ravines. Put your bones into braids of graves, fields. Put your bones into braids of graves, swamps. Put your graves into braids of bones, mother. Put your graves into braids of bones, moth. Put your graves into braids of bones, ghost. Put your graves into braids of bones, guest. Braid your bones neatly. Braid your bones bravely. Finger comb your bones into neat braids in our woods, ravines, fields, swamps. Genesis. I've always preferred Cain. His angry loneliness, his lack of mother's love, his Christian sarcasm. Am I my brother's keeper? Asks his brother's murderer. Aren't we, indeed, the keepers of our dead? Let me start again. I prefer apples that roll far from the tree. Dry like a twig is the umbilical cord tucked between legs. How did they cut it, Cain? With a stone? Under crime, right. Mother, home. Under weapon, right. Mother, home. This next poem is a lullaby sung in a small village called Vishnyovka. It's New Year's night, so magical things happen when time shifts from one year to another. Snow glints and softens, a pig's slaughter. Mama refuses another drink. Mama agrees to another drink. On the wall, a carpet with peonies, their purple mouths suck me into sleep. Small, I've been bedded, toasts through the wall, my lullabies. Mama says, no, 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 to more drink. My bed smells of Valzhyna. Without taking its eyes off me, a cat licks its grey paw as if sharpening a knife. Mama yells, yes, to another drink. Mama's breasts are too big to fit into packed morning buses. There's uncertainty I will grow into a real person. But on a certain day in Vishnyovka, a pig is slaughtered. Mama whispers, yes, 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 to more drink. I'm vanishing into the peony's throats. Peonies smell of Valzhyna, of pig's blood on the snow. Clock's hands leave a strange ski track. Nocturne for a moving train. The trees I've glimpsed from the window of a night train were the saddest trees. They seemed about to speak, then vanished like soldiers. The hostesses handed out starched linens for sleep. Passengers bent over small icons of sandwiches. In a tall glass, a spoon mixed sugar into coffee, banging its silver face against the facets. The window reflected back a figure struggling with white sheets. The posts with names of towns promised a possibility of words for what flew by. In lit-up windows, people seemed to move as if performing surgery on tables. Chestnut parks sighed the size of creatures capable of speech. Radiation, an etymology of soil directed into the future, prepared a thesis on the new origins of old roots, on secret, disfiguring missions of misspellings, on the shocking betrayal of apples, on the uncompromised loyalty of cesium. My childish voice, my hands, my feet, all my things that live on the edges of me. Shh, now, the chestnut parks are about to speak. But now they vanished. I was extracted from my apartment block, chained to the earth with iron playgrounds, where iron swings rose like oil wells. I was extracted before I could dig a language out of air with my childish feet. I was extracted by beaks, storks, cranes. See the conductor punching out eyes of sleeping passengers. What is it about my face that turns it into a document, into a ticket stretched out by a neck? Why does unfolding this starched bedding feel like skinning someone invisible? Why can't the spoons, head down in glasses, stop screaming? Shh. The chestnuts are about to speak. A girl I sing in the boys' choir. Mine is a city defaced with light's acid. Among the amphitheaters of boys' mouths, my body, a slice of nothing. Muse with two tongues where wings should be, I begin with music thrown onto meat scales. In the city of acid, light speaks with the thin lips of streets, the thick lips of avenues, strings of light stretched in the doorways of milk and meat shops. Music thrown onto meat scales by saleswomen defaced with light's acid, by saleswomen whose hands are square like picture frames. Our saleswomen, who never see themselves on the canvases of great masters, have the most pictorial lips, arches of finest architecture, triumphant arches built for their language of contempt. They despise our hunger. A child's place is in a choir, not at the table. They despise our money. Children shouldn't touch money. Money is the genitals of our state. We fry light to the screams of light, and we live on light in this innocent city defaced with light's acid. Build not on bones, not on bones, not on bones, not on bones. Not one splinter of human bones in our earth. We can lower our hands into our earth as into water, and my history book is stuffed like sausage. Verily, in your image, I hover in the glory of fish shops, in the chlorine of classrooms. In my stomach is the midnight of bread, the abyss of cognac. As a species, I am closest to a screw that loosens regularly. In a Rembrandt black bathroom, a girl child, illiterate, washes me. Left to right, my illiterate child crosses and underlines with a soaked sponge what you've made in your image. She wasn't born. She stood up and threw me off her back like the skin of an animal. I know a word for this, but don't ask me. Ask a cow, ask a dog. Verily, except for Rembrandt's right cheek, it is dark. Having picked a handful of vines, Caravaggio honestly paints the dirt under his fingernails. No, honest historians, this dirt does not mean decay. Under the charred nails, orchard, origin, and I'm a screw that loosens regularly. In its uncharted dark, women washing each other in the light of their cheeks, in the light of their knees. And we'll stay in Minsk for one more poem, and then I'll read one final poem. Not books, but a street opened my mouth like a doctor's spatula. One by one, streets introduced themselves with the names of national murderers. In the state archives, covers hardened like scabs over the ledgers. Inside a tiny apartment, I built myself into a separate room. Inside a tiny apartment, I built myself into a separate room, peopled it with the Calibans of plans for the future. Future that runs on the schedule of public buses, from the zoo to the circus. What future? What is your alibi for these ledgers, these streets, this apartment? Future. In the purse that held through 7 wars the birth certificates of the dead, my grandmother hid from me chocolates. The purse opened like a screaming mouth. The purse opened like a screaming mouth. Its 2 shiny buckles watched me through doors, through walls, through jazz. Who has taught you to be a frightening face, purse? I kiss your buckles, I swear myself your subject. August, apples, I have nobody. August, for me a ripe apple is a brother. For me a 4-legged table is a pet. In the temple of supermarket I stand like a candle in the line to the priestesses who preserve the knowledge of sausage prices, the virginity of milk cartons. My future, small change. Future that runs on the schedule of public buses. Streets introduce themselves with the names of national murderers. I build myself into a separate room where memory, the illegal migrant in time, cleans up after imagination. In a room where memory strips the beds, linens that hardened like scabs on the mattresses. I kiss little apples, my brothers. I kiss the buckles that watch us through walls, through years, through jazz. Chocolates from a purse that held through 7 wars the birth certificates of the dead. Hold me, brother apple. And I'll read the last poem. It's very short. All good poems have a turn, and I believe that all poetry readings also should have a turn. So I'll transport you now to England, to winter in England, and though there is a dead poet in this poem, there is also a little bit of sex in it, and that's the turn. But so I know that Corey started with Adam Zagajewski, and Adam Zagajewski is somebody that I read and love a lot. And this is not a poem about Adam in any way, but since he passed, I started dedicating it to him because there are trains in this poem, and Adam wrote a lot on trains and about trains. So here's a poem for Adam, but the poet in the book is not Adam at all. I picked your book from Sandeep's shelf. The poet's biography read, Lives and Teaches. Though the book was fairly recent, it was no longer true. I almost met you once. An almost meeting I remember clearly because of my embarrassment. I was having loud sex in a hotel room while you stood knocking at the door, wanting to give me your book. Now the trains stand frozen in a winter storm, and I pity the trains as if they were shivering butterflies, a whole herd of them, the last of their kind, stuck in the snow England has never seen. Sandeep is cooking dinner, you are dead, the lover's gone. Your book in my frostbitten hands. Thank you so much.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. We have one last bit of business. I'm calling up our associate chair who's standing in tonight because our chair couldn't be here this evening. We have a medallion to bestow, a shiny bauble of green. So.
Did you enjoy my Shakespeare references?
I did. I hope all done.
You were being tested too.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Yes.